good. Here's Perea, their tailback and return man. See if he can get in a little space here. Now had some space there, found the seam, and he has midfield. There he goes! Right on cue, touchdown Huskies.
No flags. How impressive was that? They needed a big lift.
Well, 6 weeks in the books with just 3 to go for Class 5A. Here's a look at the latest top 10s. Mullen remains at the top, followed by Regis, Columbine, Highlands Ranch, Rangeview, and Ralston Valley. All 6 are undefeated. Mullen shuts out Chatfield 40-0. Bear Creek remains the only team to have scored on the Mustangs here in 2010. We got our first look at Regis here this year. They're very, very good. They hammered Douglas County 30-14. It's an outstanding defense for Mark Nolan, and tell you what, Jordan Jungers may be the most underrated running back in the entire state. Columbine had their hands full with Heritage, but came through with the win. Highlands Ranch, big 24-7 victory over city rival Mountain Vista. Rangeview, they're going to win the East Metro. I think that's pretty clear to say after they destroyed Hinckley this past week. Matt Lloyd and the Ralston Valley Mustangs 6-0, but their next 2 games against Arvada West and Pomona, that'll be a real big test for Ralston. Fort Collins beat up their city rival Pooter. Cherokee Trail, back-to-back shutouts for Monty Thielen's team over Smoky Hill and Overland. Combined score in those 2 games, 94-0. And we have our 2 newcomers to the top 10 poll this week. Chaparral back in. They're 4-2. They beat Thunder Ridge 20-3. A convincing win there for John Boat's team. And welcome to Mike Campbell and the Arapahoe Warriors up to that 5-1 start. Their only loss in the season came in the opening week to number 5 Rangeview, and they got the big win over Bear Creek this past week. Speaking of the Bears, they fall out of the top 10 with their 2nd consecutive loss, and Lakewood falls out after a loss to Denver South. On to Class 4A, and we do have some movement up at the top as Pine Creek, they fall from the ranks of the unbeaten as they lose to Pueblo West. So Pine Creek, who had occupied that number 2 spot, they fall down to number 5. Broomfield, Monarch, and Falcon all move up a spot. Of course, we saw Monarch this past weekend where they've battled a lot of injuries this year. They battled a little adversity, but they still look very good. They certainly will be a team to contend with as we get later on in the season. They beat Stanley Lake on CET this past week. Falcon remains undefeated, but they will get the aforementioned Eagles of Pine Creek. That'll be a 4-5 matchup coming up this week. That'll be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, 4A matchup of the week. Longmont, they stay at number 6. They're at 5-2. Widefield, a big victory over then number 7, Mesa Ridge. 26-22 the score there. Mesa Ridge, they drop out of our top 10 after their second consecutive loss. Of course, their quality losses, Falcon and Widefield, the lone 2 teams beat Mesa Ridge, combined 12-0 record there, but Mesa Ridge drops out of our top 10. Widefield again stays undefeated. Ponderosa, 49-0 shutout of Littleton. They're at 4-2. Dakota Ridge, they were able to bounce back after that loss to Monarch last week. They get the 23-6 victory over Brighton. And then Valor Christian back into our top 10 poll, sitting at 3-3. All 3 of their losses have come against 5A teams, but they have won 2 straight. They have beaten Pueblo South and Rock Canyon in back-to-back weeks by the combined score of 79-2. Here's what we'll be here this week on CET. On Thursday night, the 14th of October, we'll be up at North Stadium. Boulder taking on Legacy. And then it's right back down to Pueblo for the 2nd time in 3 weeks. It's the Cannon game. Always one of the best games of the year. Pueblo East taking on Pueblo South. And then a DPL matchup coming up on Saturday as Thomas Jefferson takes on George Washington.